Hey there, welcome to the Playing in the Sandbox podcast, where we are deeply committed to inspiring action in today's leaders. And today we're talking all about losing. Yes, friend, you actually heard me correctly. We are getting to the truth behind the why you and your team aren't winning. So kick off your shoes, step into the sandbox. Let's dig our toes in and get going with some great content that I always love to talk about, and that is called Playing Not to Lose. You're going to want to get today's action plan as well from the episode. It is filled with extra resources and tools to ask yourself and your team as you're proactively developing your skills in leadership, in vision casting, and problem solving, just to name a few. So head over to tammyjbond.com/podcast to let our team know that you want a copy of your action plan from today's episode. And get your pen and paper ready, because I know you're going to want to take some awesome notes. So let's get going. All right. Today, we're going to do our best to shift your perspective on the way you manage yourself, your goals, and your outcomes. Friend, I want to tell you that if we aren't careful, playing not to lose can actually get you caught in a trap of lack and less than thinking. Worse, as a leader, you may be holding your team in the underperformance zone with the way that you view winning and the way that you view goal setting and accountability. So before we get too far down the road, I want to cover the basics first. What does playing not to lose actually mean? Can you actually answer that? Well, let me tell you. Let me help you out. Give you a helping hand. Playing not to lose is an avoidance strategy. And while it may protect you from the potential pain of negative feedback or embarrassing outcomes, it's a costly approach. And every time you fail to live up to the true commitments that you make to yourself and others, you undermine your self-confidence. You also undermine your success by suppressing your natural potential. Your view of failure holds you back and removes the W from the table altogether and every time. Winning requires risk, and that is capital R, capital I, capital S, capital K, risk. And for those who lean heavily on the side of risk avoidant, all lowercase, by the way, you may struggle with not just winning, but with the people around you who like new challenges and are risk attractive or risk motivated, better put. You may be pushing away the great people that don't play safe in your sandbox because their bigger rush and sense of accomplishment comes from laying it all out there and just laying it all out on the court every time. You may be the risk avoidant type who wants to keep it safe, or because you don't see yourself as the winning type, you don't have that framework in your head yet. You are the just get by kind of leader. You're pushing others who may be friends to your winning destiny away as strongly as you avoid those risks. Think about that for a minute. If you're risk avoidant and you're constantly keeping it in the safe, like playing it safe with your team, you might have some A-list players on your team that you're pushing away and that become those quiet quitters that want to leave because you're not actually building them up, lifting them up, and holding them up in the light to be able to win out of your own fear and your own lack of belief in what's possible. Now, if you have watched any sporting event ever in all of history, you know there's an underdog usually, right? There's before the game even starts, there's someone that's the prospect to win and the prospect to lose. And what's interesting is when the one that's slated to be the losing team, and they're consistently the underdog, they're last in the league or whatever. When they actually get ahead in score, you can watch this happen. It's so evident. When they get ahead in score and they're not supposed to be, you can actually see physically a shift on them. You can see it in their mindset. You can see it in their actions. You can see it in their stature. They will start playing back, right? They begin to play it not to lose. They want to keep status quo, keep safe, keep everybody where they're at. Don't take any risks because we might lose. and we're really not supposed to win, so we don't want to lose, right? We're in the lead right now, so just play it safe. What does the other team do? The other team keeps playing at their same level, right? One comes down, the other goes up to that same level of intensity that they know wins the game, and then they get out ahead and they win. You see their stature change as well. Those risk takers, those ones that are confident to go for the W, you can see their stature change as well, because the view is the winning team, the team that's slated to be the winners, right? They have a view of always being the winner. That underdog team, the picture they have in their mind is being second place, being less than, never actually being at the top. And it's how you shift in the dialogue, in the conversation in their heads to get them to play at that next level, keep playing at that next level, not playing it safe to not lose. Because without that new picture, they'll always stay in their safety zone. So those playing not to lose will not only sabotage their own chance of winning, but may interfere with others attempting a different strategy. And you can see this in sporting events, but you really see it in the workplace. When teams or when individuals on a team rise up and they've got these creative strategies that are winning and it's taking the team to another level, for those people that don't have that same picture in their mind, they'll shrink back. They'll shrink back every time. And what happens when they shrink back? Well, they hold others back around them. They become the ones that say, you know what? I don't want to try that new thing. We're not going to try that. They attempt something to hold everybody back instead of rising up to that next level of success. You see, when you have those around you that like to take on risk for the bigger reward, it exposes the lack-mindedness in the group. In the team environment, in the workplace, that lack-mindedness gets exposed, very evidently exposed. When you have risk takers around you that are wanting to create change for the better next opportunity, the lack thinking could be you, and it could be the team, and it could be that above you, the person above you that's lack-minded, that's wanting to hold you back. And it takes a very unique approach and personality to step up and out to take that risk, because it's not going to keep people safe. It's going to push people's comfort zones. You know, many years ago, back in the day in Cubicle Nation, for me, I had an experience where my boss, and this was like early on in my career, I've always been a creative type. I've always been hey, have you ever thought about, and what if my strategy mind goes into how we can make things more efficient, make it better. And I went into her office one day and I said, hey, I've got an idea. I've been thinking. And she sits back in her chair and flops her arms down and says, oh, I really hate it when you say that, because it always makes work for other people, makes more work for other people. And I was really perplexed by that statement. It's like, what do you mean my ideas make more work for other people? If they're good ideas, and so far they are, and they work, and we're getting praise and acknowledgement from them. And she's just like, yeah, but it creates more work, and nobody needs more work right now. So she wasn't interested in my ideas. So I realized pretty quickly, I guess I would say it that way. I realized pretty quickly the perpetual bruise on my forehead that I kept having was this sense of, I'm in this environment where my creativity is not honored and it's not respected. And I'm not a play it safe, keep it status quo kind of person. I'm not a duck and cover kind of person, which I could talk about all day long. That's not me. I'm opposite of that. I'm a let's make it better, let's improve it. I'm looking at the areas where we can tighten up and streamline, not where we can just get by. I'm not status quo. So as a risk-taking leader, I want you to be aware that your risk-avoidant team members won't necessarily directly oppose you. That would be too risky, right? They're not going to come right out and say no. The team members. Now your boss might, that risk-avoidant boss, no, because it's making more work for other people. But the team members won't necessarily come right out and tell you that. No, but they'll maneuver behind the scenes. This is really key too. They'll maneuver behind the scenes to get others to oppose you until public opposition is no longer a risky proposition. Okay. Right. Let me say that again. Those that are risk avoidant will maneuver behind the scenes to get others to oppose you and your ideas until public opposition is no longer a risky proposition. They'll get people on their side, clamming, claiming, clinging. That's the word I want to say, clinging the bells, right? That, my friend, will be exposed when you put accountability measures in place. This is what I need to say about that. When you put accountability measures in place on your team and you have clear buy wins and you have clear action items with buy wins, you want things done. When those risk takers come in and they say, hey, I've got this idea, and you can give them an accountability to get it done and they're getting it done. But those that are risk avoidant are never meeting your deadlines. You can understand who's more valuable on your team. I want someone who's going to stretch comfort zones and be a risk taker, right? Within good measure, of course, but that's where you have your accountabilities in place for the systems, right? So that the risk takers there is a safety net for them to still be a risk taker and not jeopardizing the whole project or the team, obviously. But I learned something very interestingly a few years ago working with a team. And it comes into this, that people will go behind the scenes scenario and they'll expose you because they don't want to take any risks. So those risk avoidant people are going to try to shout you down. One team that I was working with, that so strongly, well, to my face, they absolutely supported all the goals and the KPIs and everything that we were working them toward to succeed in the areas that they and their teams needed to succeed at. And this was a group of middle managers, and they all to my face when I was working with them, I was like, yes, that's the direction we want to go. Yes, we're all in commitment. Yes, we're all hands on deck. But behind the scenes, some of them started to talk against those that were succeeding, right? And as some were achieving goals and the others weren't, they started to sabotage, right? The negative ones, those that were playing it safe or not taking any risks to succeed, they actually started to sabotage the whole plan out of their fear of playing not to lose. They were really good with the old goals that they had, and that they only came, to a 40% achievement of goal was thumbs up. That was good. I mean, why would we get to 65%? We don't need to be at 65%. 40% should be just fine. What caught me by surprise was the work that they did behind the scenes to sabotage the success of the whole organization across the board, because these certain individuals were so afraid of stepping out because they couldn't see themselves at that next level of, who am I going to be when I'm at that level winning, or when the people around me and my teams are actually succeeding at that level and we're hitting those goals. What they were afraid of, and this might happen on your team, they were actually afraid of, well, if we hit the 65%, what's your expectation for the next? Well, let's not worry about the next. Let's hit the 65. And when we get close to the 65, we'll move the marker. But right now, playing at 30, 28, and 32 isn't even close to the low end of 40 that you're saying you want to achieve. And that's nowhere near the 65% that we're trying to achieve. And they ended up going to work to sabotage the whole process. It caught me by surprise. I wasn't quite used to the professional person being up front. Yes, I'm all in, to then go behind. I'm going to manipulate behind the scenes. That they did. And they, unfortunately, to really the demise of the company, they had success with it. They couldn't see themselves at the winner table. And even though we talked about it, right? And you might be experiencing this. You might have a team that doesn't see themselves at the winner table, or an individual, right? They don't know how to be at that level. What is required of them? Well, your job as a leader is to tell them what's going to be required of them to achieve it. And then when they're there, what to expect. Because people will be most comfortable in their own story of, this is just how we do it here, right? Oh, those goals, we can't achieve those goals. That's too much for us. Our people, we can't stress our people out to achieve those goals. But what we can do is, and they're risk avoidance, so they play safe. And then guess what? The company doesn't grow. The company has a recession, and then they're having to lay people off, all because of the leaders in that middle that are supposed to be inspiring the action for the growth in the team. They're not doing it, and they're playing to the lowest common denominator. And when you get momentum at that level, the best thing that you as leader can do is go in and disrupt it. And well, I would say, slow to hire, quick to fire, move them on. Right? Move them on. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. The people that were the less than and the self-saboteurs and the company saboteurs were not invited to leave. They were actually invited to stay. Others were invited to leave that pressed them and pushed them and pressed them to achieve their goals that they didn't want to have to achieve. It was an interesting scenario. So, people with the not to lose mindset are a liability to the victory of any movement and those actually trying to win. As a leader of others who may be risk avoidant, you may always wonder why people aren't performing around you and why you're struggling to keep people and always seeming to need to hire and train people over and over and over again. And it may be because you're actually not encouraging creativity. And with creativity comes risk. Just like I was telling you the story about my former boss, it always makes more work for others. Yes. And that creativity risk comes, but you run the risk of losing really great people, which they did because they were fearful of what creativity could bring them. So you might be saying, hey, Tam, I'm always taking on new challenges. I'm always taking on risks. But I would ask, are you? And how do you know you are? And what do the people around you say? And what's that most creative individual that doesn't play well in your comfort zone say about it? Now, one way to frame this up for you and for your team is to look at the mindset that takes you toward or away that next opportunity. And in the after action application, the action plan, let me tell you what it's actually called, after action plan, I have a list of things to consider around being promotion versus prevention mindset. To having that, what's that look like? What are they? And how do they play into this playing not to lose mindset, right? How do they play into the goals, achieving them or coming up just short of them every single time? Because we actually can't see ourselves as to winning at the goal. So I want to make sure you get that after action plan, because you're going to get into some of these next opportunities, how to help the team, how to identify what mindsets you're actually dealing with. You see, friend, doing nothing about addressing the playing not to lose behavior patterns is a form of failure right out of the gate, right? What do they call people who actually never win? What do they call teams who never win or never accomplish anything? They call them losers, right? They call them losers. So playing not to lose is actually a guarantee that you will actually lose. Let me say that again. Playing not to lose, my friend, is actually a guarantee that you will lose. And it goes like this. If someone takes a risk, they might fail. Yes. But if you never take a risk at all, you definitely will fail every time. Might fail, fail every time. Might fail, fail every time. The choice is yours. People who play it safe, leaving the risk of all things to someone else, are putting the feelings of failing above the mindset of winning. This is another golden nugget for you, another soundbite. People who play it safe, leaving the risk of all things to someone else, are putting the feelings of failing above the mindset of winning. The person who plays to win, their mindsets are stronger than their feelings. And they have the resilient mind that they know that when everything goes from bad to worse and you have every reason to fall apart, you don't. You keep moving forward, because if you stop, you fail. Now, last and final thought I want to leave with you is this. Okay, there might be two more thoughts, but this is one of the two. One of the books that I read this year that I've just really super enjoyed, and I've shared it with other people, is by Tim S. Grover. He is he's a phenomenal guy. I don't know him personally. I love his books. What I love about the book Winning is not that it's just a fantastic read and the audio version is fantastic, but I love just the way he frames up the winning mindset. I mean, he has worked as a personal trainer with Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley and Russell Wilson and some of the greatest of our elite athletes. And what I love about his book is he recalls and goes through the whole idea of playing to win versus not to lose. And so I'd really encourage you to pick up a copy of Winning by Tim S. Grover. And while there were many quotable moments in the book, this one has stuck with me, and I wanted to make sure that I shared it with you because I think it plays well here. To get into this winning ring, you must have talent, intelligence, and the added element of competitiveness, because all the abilities and smarts in the world can't help you if you're not able or willing to compete for what you want. Let me say that again. All the abilities and smarts in the world can't help you if you're not able or willing to compete for what you want. This framing, y'all, is imperative. We want to think of ourselves as winners with obstacles to overcome rather than a neutral party trying to avoid losing, or at worst, an imposter trying to pass as competent, in my humble opinion. Winners choose to pursue the affirmative action rather than avoid pain or even embarrassment. You either want to be the best or you want to maintain your position. You pick. Oh, and if you already are at the top, trust me, there are two fistfuls of others that are waiting to dethrone you, in case you were wondering. So it's always about that next level living, that next level thinking, that next level thriving that takes you out of playing not to lose and moves you into the winners category every time. More to come on this great topic in the after action plan for you to pick up at tammyjbond.com/podcast. You can get your copy of it because I've got some great sound bites there as well and questions for you to ask on your way to changing and reframing your playing not to lose into playing and aiming for that beyond the moment win every time. Thank you for joining me in the Sandbox today. Make it a great day.